There are moments in life when you get tired of feeling stuck. Tired of overthinking, tired of repeating the same patterns, and tired of waking up every morning feeling like you're living a life that's on autopilot. That's where I was. Drifting. Unfocused. Existing more than I was truly living. But one week changed everything. 7 days. 7 habits. I know that sounds impossible. A week isn't enough time to transform a life, right? But transformation doesn't wait for permission. It begins the moment you decide that who you are today is no longer enough for who you're meant to become. These 7 habits didn't just improve my life, they redefined it. They tore through the fog that clouded my mind and rebuilt me into someone more disciplined, centered, and awake. So before we dive in, I want you to clear your mind. Breathe. Forget the endless self-help tips that are all noise and no soul. Because what I'm about to share isn't theory, it's experience. It's pain turned into wisdom. It's discipline shaped into peace. So grab your coffee, find stillness, and open your mind. Because by the time we reach the end of this journey, you won't just have a list of habits, you'll have a map for rebuilding yourself from the inside out. Let's begin. 1. Waking up early. The silence that rebuilds you. The first habit that changed my life was waking up early. Now, I'll be brutally honest with you, I wasn't born with morning energy. My bed was my escape. My mornings were chaos. I'd rush through breakfast, scroll through my phone, and start my day already behind. But one morning, something in me snapped. I realized that if I wanted peace, I'd have to create it. So I set my alarm for 5 a.m. The first few mornings were war. My body resisted. My mind made excuses. My comfort begged me to stay where it was warm, safe, and familiar. But transformation never begins in comfort. It begins in resistance when the old version of you fights to stay alive. By the 3rd morning, I stepped out onto my balcony just before dawn. The world was asleep. The air was cool and pure. And as the first light crept across the horizon, painting the sky in shades of gold and blue, something inside me shifted. It was quiet, completely still. And for the first time in years, I felt the weight of silence, not as emptiness, but as clarity. That silence became my teacher. Waking up early gave me something I never knew I needed: unclaimed hours. Hours that belonged to no one but me. No notifications. No noise. No expectations. Just me, my thoughts, and the quiet hum of a world still asleep. With that time, I started to rebuild myself. I stretched. I reflected. I meditated. I wrote down my intentions. And what surprised me most wasn't how much I got done. It was how much lighter I began to feel. The chaos of life no longer dictated my mornings. I did. Soon, I realized that waking up early isn't about productivity. It's about presence. It's about standing at the edge of dawn and reminding yourself that you are alive and that you get to choose how this day unfolds. That one sunrise, that one quiet moment of gratitude, was enough to remind me that peace isn't something you find by accident. It's something you wake up early to meet. So if you've been feeling lost, if your days feel heavy or chaotic, start there. Set your alarm. Beat the sun, and greet the silence that the world is too distracted to notice. Because in that silence, you will begin to hear yourself again. 2. Daily exercise. Speaking of workouts, daily exercise was habit number 2 that truly transformed my life. Now, let me be upfront. I wasn't always the most active person. I used to find every excuse in the book to avoid working out. I'm too tired. I don't have time. Or I'll start tomorrow. Sound familiar? But one day I decided enough was enough. I made a commitment to move my body every single day for a week, and the results were incredible. That I started small, just 20 minutes a day, mixing it up between yoga, jogging, and strength training. I wanted to keep it interesting so I wouldn't get bored and quit halfway through. The first few days were tough, my muscles were sore, and I felt exhausted. But I reminded myself why I was doing this. To feel better both physically and mentally. By the 4th day, something amazing happened. I woke up feeling more energized. My mood had improved drastically. I was less irritable and more positive. I realized that those 20 minutes of exercise were not just about burning calories or building muscle. They were about giving myself time to focus on me, to release stress, and to boost my endorphins. One morning, I remember lacing up my sneakers for a jog. It was a crisp, clear day, and as I ran, I felt a sense of freedom and clarity that I hadn't experienced in a long time. It was just me, the open road, and my thoughts. That sense of connection to myself and the world around me was truly empowering. I also started to see physical changes. My posture improved, I felt stronger, and I noticed a difference in my overall fitness. But the biggest change was in my mindset. Exercise became my time to disconnect from the world and reconnect with myself. It became a form of self-care rather than a chore. Another personal highlight was trying yoga for the first time. I was hesitant at first, thinking I wasn't flexible enough or that it wouldn't be a real workout. But after a few sessions, I fell in love with it. Yoga taught me to be present, to breathe deeply, and to listen to my body. It was a transformative experience that went beyond the physical benefits. Incorporating daily exercise into my routine made me realize that taking care of my body directly impacted my mental health and overall happiness. It's not about being perfect or pushing yourself to extremes. It's about finding a form of movement that you enjoy and making it a regular part of your life. So, if you're like I was and struggling to get started, my advice is to start small. Find something you enjoy, whether it's dancing, hiking, or even just a brisk walk. Commit to just a few minutes a day and gradually build up from there. Trust me, the benefits you'll experience will be well worth the effort. It's a habit that has the power to change not just your body, but your entire outlook on life. 3. Journaling. Unlocking the voice within. I have to admit, I was skeptical at first. I used to think journaling was reserved for people with endless free time or naturally reflective souls, not for someone like me, constantly caught in the whirlwind of life. Who has time to sit down and write about their day? I asked myself. A notebook won't make my life any less chaotic. But just 1 week of consistent journaling shattered that misconception. What began as a hesitant experiment became a cornerstone of my personal growth. I started small. Every night before bed, I dedicated just 10 minutes to writing. I bought a simple notebook, nothing fancy, and a pen that felt good in my hand. No apps. No pressure to impress. Just me, my thoughts, and a blank page. The first night, I stared at that empty page, unsure of where to begin. But then I wrote something simple. How was my day? What made me smile? What challenged me? And then something extraordinary happened. As the days passed, my writing deepened. I began exploring my goals, my fears, my dreams, even the insecurities I usually buried. It became a conversation with myself, a mirror reflecting the hidden patterns of my mind. And with that reflection came clarity. I began to notice the threads woven through my daily thoughts, worries that were pointless, fears I could act upon, habits I could change. One night, after a particularly stressful day at work, I poured everything onto the page. The tension I felt, the frustrations, the self-doubt. Writing it down didn't just capture the experience, it processed it. It transformed chaos into understanding. Journaling also became a way to track my progress. Every small victory, every tiny step forward, found its place on the page. One entry stands out. I wrote about a presentation that had terrified me. Documenting the preparation, the nerves, and the eventual outcome allowed me to see my growth unfold in real time. These pages became proof, tangible evidence that I was moving forward, even when life felt overwhelming. Another transformative practice I added was gratitude journaling. Each day, I wrote down 3 things I was thankful for. At first, it felt almost trivial. A cup of coffee, a smile from a stranger, a quiet evening. But over time, it shifted my perception. Gratitude rewired my mind. I stopped dwelling on what was missing and began appreciating the richness already present in my life. One entry still resonates with me. A stranger helped me carry my heavy grocery bags. Writing about that small act of kindness filled me with warmth, humility, and a quiet desire to pay it forward. Through journaling, I discovered the intricate layers of myself, my desires, my fears, my strengths, my weaknesses. It became a sanctuary, a place where I could be completely honest, free from judgment or expectation. It was therapy, reflection, and strategy all rolled into one. If you've never tried journaling, start now. Don't worry about perfect grammar or profound insights. Write what's in your mind. A stream of consciousness, a recap of the day, a reflection on a single moment. It all works. Because the power of journaling isn't in the writing itself, it's in the act of giving your thoughts form, of turning the invisible into something tangible. It's in the process of meeting yourself in the quiet of the page and discovering the clarity and peace that have been waiting for you all along. 4. Mindful eating, nourishing the body and the soul. A habit that completely reshaped my relationship with food and, surprisingly, with myself. Like so many of us, I used to eat on autopilot. Meals were hurried, distracted affairs, a sandwich in one hand, my phone in the other, or a quick bite while working on my laptop. I barely tasted anything. I barely noticed anything. I thought this was normal. I thought this was just life. But 1 week of mindful eating opened my eyes to how much I had been neglecting my most basic connection to life, the act of nourishing myself. Mindful eating is deceptively simple. It's about paying complete attention to the experience of eating, noticing the flavors, the textures, the colors, even the sounds of your food. It's about being fully present in a world that constantly demands you to rush, to multitask, to ignore the moment you're in. I started small. I set the table for myself, cleared the distractions. No phone, no TV, no laptop. Just me, my food, and a few deep breaths to center myself before eating. At first, it felt strange, almost awkward, to sit quietly with my meal. But soon, it became a ritual, a calm, grounding pause in my day. And then the magic happened. The food came alive. Vegetables I had eaten 100 times suddenly had crunch, color, flavor. Fruits burst with sweetness I had never noticed. A simple bowl of oatmeal, usually devoured without thought, became a ceremony. I savored the creamy texture, the gentle sweetness of honey, and felt a quiet wave of gratitude wash over me. The act of eating transformed from a chore into a meditation. But the benefits went far beyond taste. By slowing down, I allowed my body to signal fullness. No more overeating. No more mindless snacking. I noticed what nourished me and what weighed me down. Heavy, processed meals left me sluggish. Fresh, whole foods energized me. For the first time, I was truly in tune with my body's needs, rather than my impulses. Mindful eating also revealed the emotional layers behind why I ate. I realized how often I turned to food out of boredom, stress, or habit, rather than true hunger. One evening, craving something sweet after dinner, I paused. Was I truly hungry, or was this a reward for surviving the day? I chose a cup of warm herbal tea instead. That small act felt monumental, a victory born from awareness, not willpower. Over that week, mindful eating transformed more than my meals. It reshaped my mindset. It nurtured a healthier, more compassionate relationship with my body. It reminded me that nourishment is not just about sustenance. It's about presence, gratitude, and care. If you've never tried mindful eating, don't overcomplicate it. Start with just one meal a day. Sit, breathe, taste, notice. Engage fully with each bite. Ask yourself how it feels, how it nourishes, how it connects you to your body. Because when you eat with awareness, every meal becomes an opportunity to ground yourself in the present, to honor your body, and to experience the simple, profound joy of being alive. 5. Limiting screen time, reclaiming the present moment. I'll be honest, this one shook me, because like most people, I lived half my life through a screen. Scrolling through endless social media feeds, binge-watching shows to escape reality, constantly checking notifications that never truly mattered. It had become a silent addiction, a habit disguised as normal life. But I didn't realize how much it was costing me, not just in hours, but in peace. Not just in attention, but in connection to myself, to others, to the world right in front of me. So I made a decision. For 1 week, I would reclaim my time. I would reclaim my focus. I would reclaim my presence. I set a boundary, 1 hour a day for non-work related screen time. No endless scrolling. No mindless YouTube marathons. No late night dopamine loops. The first few days were brutal. I reached for my phone out of reflex, not intention. I noticed how uncomfortable stillness felt, how silence almost demanded to be filled by distraction. But as the days passed, I began to see what constant stimulation had blinded me to, the beauty of simplicity. Suddenly, I had time. Time I never knew I had been wasting. I picked up books I'd long abandoned. I sketched again, cooked slowly, took long walks at sunset. One evening, instead of turning on the TV, I stepped outside. The world was calm, painted in amber light. The sound of the breeze rustling through trees, the distant hum of life. It felt raw, real, alive. That walk became a ritual, a sacred moment of reconnection with life itself. Then came the change I didn't expect: sleep. For years, I had ended every night with a glowing screen inches from my face, scrolling through noise until my mind was numb. But when I left my phone outside the bedroom and replaced it with quiet reflection, something shifted. My mind rested. My body relaxed. Sleep came naturally, deeply, peacefully. And with that came clarity. Without constant digital chatter, no news updates, no comparison traps, no algorithm-driven distractions, I began to feel present again. I could hear my own thoughts. I could hold a conversation without checking my phone. I could feel the air, the moment, the person across from me. One afternoon, I sat alone at a cafe with nothing but a notebook and a pen. No Wi-Fi, no screen, just the sound of life happening around me. I wrote, I planned, I reflected, and in that moment, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time, peace that didn't come from escape, but from presence. It reminded me of a simple truth. Technology is not the enemy. Distraction is. The goal isn't to abandon the digital world, it's to build discipline within it. When you limit screen time, you don't just gain back hours, you gain back your mind. You start noticing the colors of the world again. The sound of your breath, the way sunlight hits the floor. You begin to see life not through pixels, but through presence. So if you feel overwhelmed, anxious, or disconnected, start there. Set small boundaries. Maybe 1 hour less per day. Replace that time with something that nourishes you. A walk, a journal, a conversation, silence. You'll be amazed by what you rediscover in the stillness that screens have stolen from you. Closing reflection, the beginning of your transformation. And with that, we come to the end of this journey, 7 habits that transformed my life in just 1 week. This wasn't about quick fixes or surface-level changes. It was about reclaiming the parts of life we often overlook, the quiet moments, the simple rituals, the choices that shape who we become. Each of these habits, waking early, journaling, mindful eating, limiting screen time, they're not rules. They're reminders. Reminders that transformation begins in the small decisions, in the quiet commitment to live with intention. If you take anything from this journey, let it be this. You don't need to overhaul your life overnight. You just need to begin with 1 change, 1 habit, 1 conscious choice. Start small. Stay consistent. Because growth doesn't come from grand gestures. It comes from the daily discipline to keep showing up for yourself. And as you do, you'll notice it. The fog lifting, the clarity returning, the quiet confidence that comes from knowing you are in control of your mind, your time, your life. So try one of these habits this week. Feel the shift, reflect on it, and if it moves you, share it. Because when one person begins to live with awareness, they give silent permission for others to do the same. Thank you for joining me on this journey. If this message resonated with you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need it. And remember, transformation isn't a destination, it's a daily practice. 1 breath, 1 thought, 1 choice at a time. Keep growing, keep evolving, and never forget, peace begins where distraction ends.